Hello, everyone, and welcome to this afternoon's webinar on T1135, the Foreign Income Verification Statement. I'm Sharka Hoyda, tax analyst with TaxCycle, and we'll be walking through mainly in T1, but I'll also do a quick look at the Attach-a-Docs system in T5013. So before we dive into content, got to go forward. Before we dive into content, some housekeeping. The webinar contains demos, and we do recommend that you maximize your viewing window for the best view of what I'm going to demo here today. The webinar is being recorded, so to rewatch it later, just visit the webinar recordings page on our website. We do use polls to gauge your attendance, and in this webinar, because it's a mini, only 15 minutes, we will only have one poll. And we do use that to award verifiable professional development credits. To receive your certificate, you have to also watch for the minimum viewing time and answer the poll, and the certificate will be sent out to you by email. So just a quick review of the agenda. We're just going to talk about where on the info page you select that a T1135 is applicable, a quick preparation of a T1135 in T1, e-filing the form that is available in T1, T2, T3, and T5013 in TaxCycle, and submit docs is available in the T2 and T5013. And then if we have time, we'll do a quick amendment as well. Oops. There is I trip over things here. All right, so let's get out of here and into TaxCycle. So on the info page, where you're going to look for that question is further down the list here. There is this foreign property question in the filing section. You will see this in every module where filing is required for foreign property. And that is triggered when you have a total cost of more than $100,000 Canadian in foreign property. And that specified foreign property, there is you can read up on what the definition of that is. But that is triggered if at any time in the year, so for individuals, that would be the calendar year. And for corporations, and T5013, and in some cases for trusts, that will be their fiscal year. So where we have a crossover that is sort of mid-year to mid-year, then we need to get those report that information based on that calendar year. And we might have to work with your client and their investment advisors to get the necessary reporting so you can make sure that you're covering the appropriate period. It's easy to get caught on this, and the filing penalties are enormous. So you don't want to miss that. Okay, so T1135, we're going to jump into that, and you can find that along the side here in the filing section, or by going to the fast find and looking for T1135. Last year or the year before, we added an additional section in T1 specifically to help with coupled returns. So this will help simplify your data entry. You're only going to have to do it once, and then you can split it with the spouse. So that'll be much more efficient than having to copy and paste or having to duplicate it in two places. So as you know, the simplified version is available if the maximum cost in here is less than 250,000, so between 100,000 and 250,000, or otherwise you have to do the detailed reporting. So I will show you, we'll just select the simplified version because it will be faster to enter it this way. And then in this management, or in this top section that we added here, you would select the type of property. So this will flow down into the form, into the relevant area. So let's say we had shares of non-resident corporations. So we just continue to fill this out. Let's say that is, I don't know, Dell. and they're a US-based company. And let's say we had 20,000 maximum there for the year. My year-end about gross income and gain loss on disposition. Say we made some money on some partial dispositions there. Okay, so now we have this, and if I scroll down, you see that it's keeping track of my maximum in the year for me. And this comes from info. And down here, it's selecting the relevant pieces from that worksheet. So it's already calculating for me that I have some non-resident corporations. It's put in my country code here for me in the simplified section, and the total gross income and the gain. Now, if I go over to the spouse, there isn't going to be anything here right now because I didn't share with spouse, but let's go back and add a spouse share. So say spouse owns 50% of that investment, and so we're going to report 50% on the spouse's return and 50% on the principal's return. Now, if we go over to spouse, that information is now showing here. And if I go down, it will also update down here, although I see this is not getting populated. So I will let the group know. All right, so let's switch back. So then you would just continue down here, continue to add. So maybe I have a rental property or something down here in the States. Sorry. So you start typing to sort your list instead of having to scroll. And let's say my spouse also owns half of that. And we'll say that that is worth 300,000. And so now I've met the requirement for reporting on the T1135 amount at year end. I'm just going to put this in here. And 0. And well, I guess if I have rental income, say I'm just renting it out for $1,000 a month. Okay, so now I have it in there. Now the problem is that I've got US, and maybe my report is in US dollars. So that means I'm going to have to add an exchange rate, and you can do that here. You can go to the tools menu, you can click on exchange rates here, and then use this tool to find the appropriate rate in US dollars. And then find whether you need the annual rate or a specific day rate. You would do that in here. We're just going to use the annual rate for simplicity, copy it to the field, or you can copy it to the clipboard and then use Control V to drop it into whatever fields you want to see it in. So now I've got the exchange rate is in there. It adds, TaxCycle will add a memo for me to a reference for what exchange rate I've dropped in there. So it's easy and visible for anyone else that's coming in to review the file, where the source of that information is. And then if I scroll down, now all of that information is populated in here for me, and I am ready to look at filing this return. So I want to go to the bottom, and there's an option here to insert the date on transmission and printing. You can set this in options so that it will always be the default. And if I click on this specify default, it will take me into the options to set it. But for now, I'm just going to set the, I'm going to set it to insert the current date on transmission. And then this is a warning that CRA asked us to put in here that that it's due no later than the due date of the tax return. And then along the side, when you're all ready, your client has signed it and it's ready to file, you would go to the transmission tab down to T1135. And if you have an e-signature, you're going to click e-signature and fill out the details. Or if you have a paper signature, you will click paper signature and follow the workflow to e-file that return. And then it will populate the transmission results here on your electronic transmission results worksheet. So pretty simple and straightforward, easy to do, easy to complete in here. I'm just going to take a quick break here to do that polling question, Tim, and then we'll carry on and I will show you T5013 attach doc service.
Okay. So the first and only polling question for today is up on the screen now, and it reads, for both T1 and T2 returns, the foreign property question in the filing section on the info worksheet triggers both the T1135 review messages and transmission workflow. True or false?
Okay, thanks, Tim. So I'm just going to minimize this. We're going to hop into my T5013 file. This is one where the T1135 has already been transmitted, and along the side, it will give us the little happy face. So this works exactly the same way as other transmissions in the service. In T5013 and in T2, we also offer the Submit eDocs service with the T1135, and in T2 with the 1134 and the 106 as well. And what this allows you to do is submit any supporting documents that are required to be submitted to CRA along with these filings. For T1 and T3, I think you can do it in Represent a Client now, I believe. If you're doing it in here, the way that you would do it is you would come in and you would select the Transmit Documents Electronically. The TaxCycle will drop in the confirmation number. I believe it's 24 or 48 hours you have in which to submit the documents after you filed the return. The return does have to be filed first, and they do need this reference number in order for you to be able to use the attach doc service. And then you would just go down here into the document types. You would select the type of document that you're sending in here. If you double click in here, you can navigate to wherever it is that you have stored the files that you want to attach. And then when you're ready to go ahead and file them, you will come down to the 1135 FRR transmission service, and you would submit them electronically using the Transmit Now button that's available in here. If you've missed a document and you need to go back and attach more, then you would just dismiss the results and start again, attach your document, and then submit and then transmit one more time. Now, to refile or amend a T1135, you would go back to your 1135. There is a box at the top to amend the return. You would select that, and then you would go ahead and make your adjustments. You'll see that my watermark updated to say that it's getting amended. You go in and make your changes to whatever the reporting should be. And then in T5013 and T2, I just will draw your attention here as well. When you're filing this, if you are sending it for electronic signature, or by default, it will have an electronic signature watermark on it to alert clients not to paper file if it's been sent to them electronically for signature. To hide that watermark when you first come in here, there's a little check box down at the bottom in T2 and T5013. You can just check this, and then that watermark for electronic signature will go away. But back to refile, if this is all ready, your client has signed the amended form, then you would just go back in here to your transmission, dismiss the results, and start again, and then just click on go back through this and transmit now, will send the amended return into CRA. And then there was just the one other thing I wanted to mention, which is available, I believe, in all of the modules where we support T1135, is that there's a carry forward box here. If you're doing the detailed descriptions, you can select to carry forward the descriptions and the countries that you've entered. So if there's not a lot of change from year to year, to save you some rekeying next year for the same form, you can select this as yes, and it will carry forward those details for you into next year to make next year's tax return quicker to prepare. All right, so we're at our 15-minute mark. Thank you, everybody, for joining me here today for our tour of T1135. Have a super rest of your day. Bye for now.